right, let's finish up long division with a couple more problems, and then we'll talk a bit about division by zero and some word problems. Okay, so we have 46,653, and we're dividing by 53. So we can't go into 4, we can't go into 46. We have to go ask ourselves, how many times does 53 go into 466? So I'm going to use my calculator. 53 times 5 is not even close. It's pretty low. 53 times, let's try 8, is 424. So that looks right. So I'm going to put my 8 up here. 8 times 53 gave me 424. So I can subtract that to end up with 42. As soon as I subtract, I'm allowed to drop that next number and do it all over again. So how many times does 53 go into 425? Well, it would also go 8 times then, because 8 times 53 is 424. So that leaves me with 1 left over, and I can drop down the 3. Okay, now we have to ask ourselves, how many times does 53 fit into 13? The answer here is 0. It doesn't go even once. Now that we're done, now that we've dropped all our numbers, now our remainder would be 13. If you want, you could say 0 times 53 is 0. So you subtract the 0, and you will end up with a remainder of 13 here. Okay, last one. Nice big one. So we've got 11,578 divided by 642. So we can't go into 1, we can't go into 11, we can't go into 115. We have to go 4 digits over now and ask ourselves, how many times can 642 go into 1,157? So it can only go 1 time, because 2 times is going to be more than 1,200, or 1,200, I should say. So I'm going to put a 1 here. So 1 times 642 gave me 642. So that's what I'm going to subtract down here. And that leaves me with 515. Once I subtract, I'm allowed to drop down my 8. And now we need to know, how many times does 64 go into 500 or 5,158? So I'm going to go 642 times, it's going to be a pretty high number. Let's do times 7. That's about 4,400. And I can't add another 600. It's almost 4,500. I know I can't go any further, so it's got to be the 7. Okay, if I did the 8, let's just do it for fun. 642 times 8, I would get 5,100. Oh, I can do it. Look at that. Good thing I checked. 5,136, which is okay. So we're going to do times 8, because then we can subtract 5,136. And that leaves me with 22. I have no more numbers to drop down, so that's my remainder. So my remainder there is 22. Okay, let's talk a bit about division and 0. So if we have 0 divided by a whole number, that would be like saying, and you can actually ask Siri and she will use this example, 0 cookies divided into 4 groups is still going to be 0 cookies. Okay, and if you wanted to double check your work, you would say 0 times 4 equals your dividend you started with of 0. That makes sense. We're all good. Okay, so 0 cookies divided into 4 groups, that's fine. There's still 0 cookies per group. However, what if you try to divide by 0? So what if you had, for instance, 4 divided by 0? Well, the whole world explodes. So this is an example here. Your house is going to implode. Bad things are going to happen. You cannot divide by 0. So if you had 4 cookies and you tried to divide them into 0 groups, well, what does that mean? You're not even really dividing anymore. Your calculator can't figure it out. You can even YouTube some mechanical calculators trying to do it, and they will just go bananas. They'll go on forever and ever trying to figure out what a number divided by 0 is. They can't compute it. You can never divide by 0. So let's say you're on a test and someone asks you, What's 105 divided by 0? What are you going to write? Well, you can write it as there is no solution like this, or you could say it's undefined. One way to remember this is you have some number n divided by 0. That means no, it can't happen, okay? If you have 0 divided by some number, that's just 0, that's okay. But n over O, no, can't do it. Over here, we have 2,365 divided by 0. We could write it this way as well if we wanted. That means n over O or no. So the answer here is 0 or undefined. The world will explode. We just can't do it. Okay, last part of today is just talking about some unit analysis, which is really a different form of division. So if you had $60 and you divided it into 5 groups, you would have $12 per group. So that dollar sign stayed with the problem. If you had 200 kilometers, if you drove 200 kilometers and used 10 liters of gas, then your mileage is 20 kilometers per liter of gas. So once again, those units stay in here. I'm just going to write this a different way. So we could say 200 kilometers per 10 liters, okay? Which if we did that division, we would end up with 20. And then our units are still going to be kilometers per liter. Another way to write that is with that kind of side, can't think of the word, this symbol, sorry, it's not the whack, it's the other one. That's not a correct word either. That's from website lingo. Anyway, it'd be 20 kilometers per, this kind of per symbol here, liter. I will think of it as soon as I'm done this video. Okay, similarly, if you do 200 kilometers in 2 hours, that would be 100 kilometers per hour. Or you could write this as 100 kilometers per hour. So those units stick. So if we have this example, Troy flew a light plane. Okay, he went 2,835 miles and it took 21 hours. We want to know his approximate speed in miles per hour. So that would be his approximate average speed, I'll just write. Or let's not confuse ourselves with that actually. Just the approximate speed he's going per hour. Okay, or approximate distance he's going per hour. So we want miles per hour. Okay, and that can maybe help you figure out what you're doing here. Miles per hour. So we're going to do miles divided by hours. So 2,835 divided by 21. And we can figure that out. 21 goes into 28 one time. That leaves us with 7 left over. We can drop the 3. 21, how many times can we fit 21 into 73? We could go 3 times for 63. And don't feel bad if you need a little more time to figure that out. Okay, that's going to leave us with 10. And I'm just making sure I'm doing it right. Yep, that's right. We're going to drop down that 5. Now, how many times does 21 fit into 105? Well, 21 times 5 is exactly 105, so that worked out well. So we have exactly 135 with no remainder. So therefore, we could say his approximate speed is 135 miles per hour.